Christmas is a wonderful time of year, but also we know that Christmas is a time that many people are looking to settle into, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
When there's someone that I loved and shared this space with me is no longer here.
I think can sometimes be a lot of beauty in pain. And even though it's painful, it doesn't give it no purpose. Oftentimes being connected with other people can lift your hopes.
Yeah. In the situation, internally, I can find a sense of joy and hope. All right. We're here. We're in episode 5 after Thanksgiving. 2 days before Christmas. We're here to get ready for the holidays, and turkey's up. Christmas decorations out. Yes,
No, not for me. I'm a late bloomer on Christmas ornaments.
Are you a late Christmas decoration bloomer? Okay. So the question was posed. Do you put decorations out for Christmas before Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving?
So in full disclosure, just to give you reference. So last year, I think I bought a Christmas tree the week of Christmas, like literally. But I will let the tree sit up until like after New Year. Like New Year's, we'll like sit with it and it just for the whole Christmas break. But I'm a late decorator.
I had to throw you under the bus. Did you buy it because of nostalgia and you wanted to pretend that Santa brought it, or the Who's from Whoville, or
I just didn't feel it before then. I just drove by one day and said, "Ooh, time for that tree." I know it just was like a little light, and then my babies were like, "We need a tree," and I was like, "Let's do it." So, now I'm sharing. I'm living in a multi-generational household, so I'm considering other people. Like my baby, she wanted to put decorations out on the lawn, literally like before Thanksgiving even happened. Like she saw other people with like turkey blow ups in their yard and everything. And she was like, "We're decorating for Christmas. I want to blow up." She wants the bells and whistles. So I do think that for me, I have been challenged this year to just do it just a little bit earlier because they're in the mood. And when we drive around town and they see like little Christmas trees and stuff everywhere, they get so excited and it's very special. So, it's all for the kids.
It's all for the kids. She's going to be
but
like...
if it was me, it would be like the day of.
She's going to be like the mayor's wife on the Whoville from the Jim Carrey, How the Grinch Stole Christmas with the gun, shooting up the lights. Like, that's what I would do if I could. But Christmas is a wonderful time of year. But also we know that Christmas is a time that many people are looking to settle into, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
When there's someone that I loved and shared this space with me is no longer here.
Yeah.
So Christmas is a time that a lot of people deal with grief and loss. And how do I still stay festive? And I don't mean like just throwing on hats and throwing, garland festive. I mean, how do I find joy?
Right.
In my soul when this is the first Christmas that I am having without my loved one, the person I love.
Not just the first Christmas, even. Like I was just watching this guy the other day on Instagram, and he was talking about how he had lost his mom, and he was saying how it felt like he's lost her like multiple times. Like every time he thinks about her, it's like losing her again and again, even though years have passed. And I think that's how a lot of people do experience grief, not necessarily as this like one-time event.
Right.
And I love the way that it's Elisabeth Kübler-Ross. So she's kind of like the queen of all things grief and loss. She created the 7 stages of grief. And she has this quote that I've thought was so just like pivotal to, I guess, understanding how we experience loss. But she said, "The reality is that you will grieve forever. You will not get over the loss of a loved one. You will learn to live with it. You will heal and you will rebuild yourself around the loss you have suffered. You will be whole again, but you will never be the same, nor should you be the same, nor would you want to."
Wow.
And I was like, oh my goodness.
I think I appreciate her vantage point on that, because when you lose someone often, and I want to give grace to people. Sometimes people just don't know what to say
Mm-hmm.
in a moment like that. They want to care, they want to comfort, but they don't know exactly what to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it'll come out as, you'll get over it,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I sit in spaces, and I agree with that quote from Kübler-Ross. And it's not about getting over something.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how we're going to work through it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that one moment that we're going to just wake up and no longer long for that person,
Mm-hmm.
no longer find gaps in space in our heart,
Mm-hmm.
in our mind. I mean, just to take it personal, I will never forget when I had a loved one pass away. When my father passed away, he was a person that could write me. He could. I would pick up the phone and say, "Dad, this and this and this and this." And his first statement would be, "Well, Drea," because that's what my family calls me, Drea or Andrea. He said, "Well, Drea," and he would go on to give me wisdoms
Mm-hmm.
that will settle my soul. So what was shocking to me is the amount of times that I hit a space that I wanted just to know, okay, where do I begin with this? What do I do? And I reached to pick up the phone
Mm-hmm.
just to be reminded that is a gap in what I love to call my love tank.
Mm-hmm.
Because he made my love tank full. So there is not, when you think of the stages of grief, and Kübler-Ross, she started off with 5, but like you noted,
Uh-huh.
it was expanded to the 7. There's no linear way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, now you're going to grieve in anger today.
Right.
Now you're going to be in denial today.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to bargain a little bit. It is not linear like that. There's moments when you're going to be angry about
Mm-hmm.
it. And there's moments that you're like, this cannot be happening
Mm-hmm.
to me. Was my heart prepared,
Mm-hmm.
for that? So
Right.
I don't know how to say enough that there is no right way
Right.
to grieve.
To experience that kind of loss. And I was actually listening to this guy the other day, and he's an artist on Instagram, and he was talking about how, from his perspective, he had learned to stop looking at it from a place of every time those memories would come up or those thoughts would come up of what was missing, but start to think about it from the perspective of what he had gained from knowing that person, the amount of love that he got to experience, and started to look at it through that kind of like that frame of mind of this is just to know, like you said in your instance, your dad, just to know him and to reach and to feel that initial pain, but then also to consider about all of the deposits and all of the good things over the years when you did reach for the phone that he was able to give you and your kids, his grandkids, and how many of those deposits we're now passing on to the generation beneath us too. And so I think can sometimes be a lot of beauty in pain. And even though it's painful, it's not necessarily, it doesn't make it like it doesn't give it no purpose, if that makes sense. That there's moments where we feel pain, and rather than running from it or ignoring it, we can lean into it and say,
I agree. I've often, as you say that, and we can talk about this probably because we'll have to flesh this out. For me, over the tenure of my work and engaging people as they walk through pain and walk through grief and loss, grief and mourning are not the same, Grief and mourning are not the same. And so there's even a scripture in the Bible that says, call for the skilled women that mourn. So mourning is, like a process. And when I've sat and talked with people, I try to explain the difference, right? Or explain what they may look like. And we live in a beach city. So there's a beach, right? And there's a wave. I'm a people watcher. So I would often watch people when I'm on the beach, and I could tell the tourists because they'll be just in conversation and having their drink, and all of a sudden a wave will come and just pummel them, right? And then after that, they'll gather their bearings, they'll get up, and then I'll watch them and now they're mindful of the wave and they don't turn their back. To me, that's what grief is like. It just comes. Sometimes it comes and it hits you in life when you're doing something, you're not thinking about it. It's not on your mind, but it will crash on your soul like the pummel of that wave. But when I notice them when they stand up, then now they're mindful of the wave and they face the ocean. And so they do one or two major things. They may do a lot of things. Some people come out like, I ain't doing it.
Not doing it.
I ain't doing the work. Like, I'm not doing it. Or you have people, and I notice them, they'll either see the wave coming, the tide coming, and they'll start inching back. Have you ever noticed that? To kind of find the cadence of the wave.
And you got the seasoned vets, we go ahead and dive into it. If you dive in before it gets to the swell, it doesn't take you out.
It doesn't take you out. And you have those people that when they see it coming, I'm this person. They will brace their body because they know it's going to hit. There's nothing they're going to do about it, but they're enjoying what they're doing. And they know it's going to come and it's going to go. So they brace their body, let the wave crash, let it leave. And so the reason why I use those examples is because grief is unexpected, but you get to the place where you mourn. And when you mourn, you look into it. You look to that. You know it's coming. And then you begin, and we'll talk about what it looks like to begin to do things that don't force you to get over, but holds you solid and anchored, and also honors like the memory of that
of
loved
that
one.
person and loved one. And I was actually looking earlier, and I found this stat that was kind of like mind-boggling for me about people that experience like depression and or like suicidal thoughts after losing a loved one. And I think it's something between 10 to 20% of people will then begin to experience those things of more of a deeper depression or those suicidal thoughts. And so when you're coming up on the holidays and everybody's kind of singing jingle bells and, you know, you got the kids Christmas play and they're adorable and they're singing the songs and doing all the things and, you know, and it's supposed to be this very joyous time. And then you're experiencing some level of depression or even thoughts, you know, about suicide. You know, how do we reconcile that or how do you safeguard yourself against
from
like
that,
kind of going in deeper?
I think the study you're talking about came out of Baylor University, and they had a study where they were saying, and I was shocked too, that I expected, just automatically expected the suicide rates to be higher when people are overcome with sadness. But come to find out, it's not that. The suicide rates decrease during the holidays. So I had to go and take a deeper dive into that. And so I looked into some things from the CDC, Baylor University, and there was one common thread, and that was people were attached to people that they cared about. So in emotional health and mental wellness, when we talk about support networks, that's a thing. And so that just gave proof to me right there that, support networks are pivotal when it comes to us being well. The other thing they talked about was because you're with people that you care about, you love, it raises the dopamine. And I'm no nurse, but that made me, I was like, I'm going to go and talk to Dr. Mo about this. I didn't really understand. So give me some more on the correlation between being with people you love, having those support nests, being in festive environments, raise of dopamine, decrease of sadness and depression.
So it's not a specialty of mine. So I don't know that I could speak so deeply into the mind-body connection in that way as far as connections are concerned. But I can speak to just biology in general and the way that our brains work. But usually when we're looking at depression, everybody always talks about dopamine, but I'm like, listen, we should be talking about serotonin. That's what we should be talking about. Serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine, all of these things, right? They all work to help us to feel good, to keep our anxiety down, to keep our mood real high. And our body naturally releases these things. It's a lot going on. We're getting into some, a lot of brain anatomy for that, but I feel like on a simplified level, when we do things that we enjoy, it boosts our mood. And when you're feeling lonely and when you're feeling down, when you're feeling hopeless, which is a major sign of depression, something that you see when people are depressed, oftentimes being connected with other people can lift your hopes.
Yeah.
And I heard somebody the other day, it was a therapist, and he said that hope is active. Like you sometimes you got to kind of choose to be like, I don't feel it. But I've got to make it kind of happen. I tell people that all the time. Feelings and emotions usually follow. Meaning if I'm feeling depressed, oftentimes signs of that is that I don't feel like getting out of bed. I don't feel like doing anything. I can't connect with my friends. I'm lucky to shower sometimes. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if you don't get out there, studies show that if you get out there with your friends, your family, if you connect, if you do that thing that you enjoy, maybe you like to knit, sew, whatever. If you play baseball or go to the game with the boys, if you do those things, all of a sudden you feel better.
Yeah.
Right? But the challenge is the disconnect between I'm in the bed and I'm getting there. And I think something about Christmas kind of forces you to get there because it's like we've got to do the things for the kids. Mom wants to see me, got to go to the in-laws' house. I don't know, maybe stressful, maybe not stressful. So when you're doing all of these things, it's putting you in the pocket of other people, and not just any people, but the people that truly may even be going through that same pain with you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it gives you this connection and this understanding for you to be sad, but your sibling to be sad, or you to be sad and your cousin to be sad. And so that support kind of naturally lifts and
Just
boosts
happens.
you.
I begin to think about, when we were thinking about talking about this, I looked up some things and just perused some things from CDC and the study for Baylor too. I keep coming back to those because in all my searches, they're the ones that gave the most practical things like that you could do. And when I read them, I was like, oh, I did that without even realizing it when I lost my loved one. But one of the things that was very helpful for me was journaling. And I know as a CBT therapist or a practitioner, journaling and homework is just one of the tenets. But honestly, it can be releasing. To just really journal. And what did I love about that person? And looking at it and saying, okay, we're not. And so people often say setting a new normal. I don't know that I want to set a new normal. I want to take the sacredness of my loved one and the things that was sacred and the traditions, and I want to bring them with me. So, and honor that person in that way. So in the journaling, one of the things I did is, what are the things and traditions that I loved, that I enjoyed? And one that was very simple, and I don't even know if you remember this, but one of the things my father used to say every day without fail when I left the house was, have a super fine day. And so I picked that up. I would say it, but that was one way for me to mourn, for me to, in a healthy way.
Right.
So to have him with me, right? In a healthy way. So I begin to say every morning to you guys, to my children, when you left, I said, I'm going to keep that with me. That keeps it with me. Have a super fine day. And I'll never forget, one day I was just observing you. You had a newborn. I was at your house and we were just doing morning things and your husband was leaving. And in the peripheral, I saw you kiss him and you said, okay, have a super fine day. And that to me was sacred. So one of the ways that you can mourn is to first journal and then use traditions and things that you loved and don't set a new normal, but actually add those things. And your journaling does this. The things when I do them that are crippling and make me so sad, I'm not going to interject this holiday. But the things that brought me joy, I am going to keep them and integrate them in to and then you pick up new things too. So it's not a new normal. It's just a new thing that's going to give me a step forward in my healing.
Right. And I feel like that honors kind of that quote that we were talking about earlier about how she was saying, like, you're going to be a new person, but why would you want to change that?
Yeah.
Why would you want to change? And so I think that concept of being like, I can take all of these beautiful things and integrate them in my life to honor, not just to think about those memories from a place of pain and hurt, which I think there's space for that.
Yeah.
There should be space for that.
Yeah.
And I think there comes a time too, we know in our field that you have the process of grieving, and then you have like a complex bereavement where it gets to a place, and usually for us that's over a year.
Yes.
So if you get to the point where it's like, okay, it's past a year, but you're not coming out of that depression, or you're not starting to learn those ways of coping, like you said, or trying to inch back from that wave, what are some things that they can kind of engage in once they get to that point where it's been a little bit maybe closer to that year mark or so, or farther, where they're still struggling?
I think that's a space where we, one of the big and running themes for us, and even doing this podcast, is because we want to normalize seeking help.
Right.
We want to normalize people reaching out and really understanding the spectrum. And we talk about that. We talk about, okay, my loved one passed away. That was a life interruption. Right? Then if I get to the pace where the waves pummel, I'm not able to mourn. Then I may get to some distress. What you're talking about is when you hit that year mark, and now we're at disturbance. And what does disturbance look like? You look in your social realm, your occupational realm, and your relational realm of life. And how does that grief impact your functionality?
Right.
Are you getting out of bed? Are you able to show up for work? Is the sadness so debilitating that you're not able to concentrate and things of that sort? You have counselors and therapists that focus on grief, that do grief work. So you're going to decide depending on what you need. If you're down here at the life interruption, it was enough for me to call my loved one that was comfortable talking with me about it. It was enough for me to consider having a grief and loss group and being around other people. But when you get to that year mark, then you're talking about seeking additional help in grief counseling. Or if the depression gets to the point, I'll let you speak to what it looks like to maybe even have to engage psychotropic interventions to baseline you.
Yeah. So I always tell people when we think about meds, there are some people that have what we would call recurrent. So it just depends. Like if you already experienced depression in the past and now you've also had this kind of added on top of it, it may be beneficial for you to come get medication. Oftentimes I feel like if you're in therapy and you're in it for a while and those interventions aren't really kind of helping you to get more functional, that's often a really great time to consider if you need medications until you get to a space where you're building other tools and skills that allow you to begin to navigate life again and get back into functionality. Our usual recommendation for, we'll call it like an episode of depression, is usually about a year. So, give you the medications and let you sit on them for about a year. And then sometimes we can do what we call deprescribing, which a lot of people don't know about.
Right.
They feel like when they come to me, I always tell them, hey, we can deprescribe if it's appropriate. And you always want to talk to your doctor about if it's appropriate, about backing that medication up and seeing if you're able to kind of tolerate and walk through life again. And so that is always an option for people, especially, I always tell people, especially when you get to that place where you feel like considering suicide or things of that nature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's disturbance.
You want to be able to be here and be here well and live well. And so that's the part for me where I'm like, okay, let's consider it. Even if it's a scary thing for you to consider and you've never done it before, let's see how we can get you kind of back in the right space and frame of mind too.
I appreciate our connection because there's often a discourse And even within me, like I'm a therapist and then you're a medication management provider. And I think sometimes between the two disciplines, there's often discourse about what to do when people hit that space of disturbance and grief and things like that. So I just appreciate the fact that we can have the dialogue that I would often say, skills don't replace pills don't replace skills. And what that means is there's no way to get around. You got to do the work.
Yeah. And
You
I
have
tell
to do the
people all
work.
the time, like when we look at, if you think about somebody who's grieving or is experiencing loss, some of them might have already been on medications and like the concept of may even needing to increase their medication to go through the season that they're in.
Yes.
And then decrease it again once they're better function. So it's not even so much just about introducing meds.
Yeah.
Some people may have already been battling depression and anxiety and other things, and this makes it worse.
This exacerbates it.
So it's something to definitely to consider.
Yeah. I wanna just touch this lightly. I don't know where else we may be going with it, and as we flow with it. But I was just sitting here and I had a spontaneous thought of, we're talking about when you lose people, but there's a grief and loss that you have during the holiday too that has nothing to do with death and dying. Sometimes people may have lost their job. We just came off of a furlough.
Right.
That was hard for a lot of people, and that turned their life upside down. So they have to grieve the loss of that employment and then walk through what it looks like to walk through a holiday without means. You may have someone that is experiencing a divorce, and we're learning now to be two families, two houses, 2 homes, 2 parents.
Right.
What does it look like to grieve the loss of the tradition of that nuclear family now being separated and becoming 2 different places? So children are involved in that. So when we talk about grief and loss around the holidays, it is just not like a unilateral when it comes to just losing a loved one. There's other losses that happen as well.
That's true. And I think even, I was about to say, and even one that you didn't mention is maybe the loss of a connection of a family member that's still living, but you've had to either set boundaries or take a step back, or even going no contact, which we're going to talk about even more so probably in the next episode. Where there's a loss, but that person's still breathing. And I don't think anybody sets you up for how hard that is, how hard it is to grieve somebody that's still alive. And grieve somebody that maybe you needed that space from. And or grieve what you would have hoped that it would have been, or what those relationships, what your expectations were that they should have felt like. So there's also so much loss that could occur there for you emotionally and mentally as well. But I really quick, I just want to talk a little bit about how we balance experiencing sadness and loss also while we have this concept in the background of like considering all things joy. So how do we balance that, or how do we reconcile that in our hearts and minds, that we're supposed to be, experiencing joy or experiencing a joy that's not circumstantial, even though we're going through something that's really hard?
You were asking my question, and when I wrecked my brain, there's a scripture that popped in my head that says, in everything give thanks, right? And I think sometimes we glaze over that to just give thanks, right? So I feel often people feel a spiritual failing, or I feel that people might feel a spiritual failing if they're not able to be jovial when they're experiencing grief. I just want to make note and bring mention of what it literally says. It says, in everything. When I had the epiphany, I don't know why I had the epiphany, but it does not say for everything. I'm not about to be joyful about the fact all the time that I lost someone. It sucks. But in the situation, internally, I can find a sense of joy and hope and peace in the fact that there were deposits made by, I cannot, as I'm thinking about it, I can't think of anyone that I have lost in a temporal sense in the world, or in a figurative sense in a relational shift or change, I can't think of anyone. If I was with you, there was something good in you. If I spent time with you, there was something good at you and good in you. I think there's that analogy of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Well, this may be a necessary ending. We may go in different spaces. All of you is bad. No, all of that person is not bad, especially if you like spent 10 years in that friendship, that marriage, that relationship. So I find taking what is good. So am I grateful for every situation loss? No, but I am thankful and grateful in it because it taught me something. My dad used to say, you're going to learn, Andrea, you're going to learn what to do or what not to do, but you're going to learn. I think in every loss situation, if you look at it in a space of, what did I learn?
Right.
Even if it's in this situation, I'm going to be joyful that I am able to handle and house grief more effectively. I don't say better. You often want to say better, but better is relative based on the person. But I just want to do it more effectively than I did it last time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or more effectively as I traverse it and go through it. So I balance out that how can I be happy, And remember, we got Kübler-Ross's stages.
Right.
You know, I'm going to say
and
things.
I even think that too. Like when I was thinking about it, I was thinking more of like an Ecclesiastes kind of 3 and 4. Like there's a time to mourn. And there's a time. It gives you all these times. There are times where it's appropriate and healthy for us to mourn.
Yeah.
And so I think if we put on this falsehood of joy when we're supposed to be experiencing mourning, we're not allowing ourselves to really process through our emotions in a healthy way. And then it does become unhealthy. But very, very quickly, real quick, we're going to give the people real quick just a few resources that they can kind of peruse through if they are experiencing grief or if they have any needs there.
I know you referred a book by C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
That
it's a book called A Grief Observed. And he had actually personally lost his wife. And I believe it was like his only marriage, and he really loved her. It was like a 4-year marriage. And he wrote this very beautiful book. And he has some great quotes in there. And I think if you want to, you can read it. But reading things, listening to music and arts, expressing yourself, getting around people that support you, and honoring people's memories. Like those are all ways that we can effectively grieve those that we love this holiday season.
Definitely music. And we'll somewhere for you to find it. Show notes somewhere you'll be able to find it. We'll put resources. Music was big for me. Like I can put on a song. There's this saying that music soothes the savage beast. Well, sometimes the grief in me is savage. And it is heavy. And it is ravaging to my joy. And so music is something. So we'll drop some songs that you can just go over. And if you're experiencing sadness, as you're experiencing, we found out this week that we have a tribe. I didn't know that. I got a text and the text said, the Scales and Peels tribe. I said, that's it. That's where we're going to be. So if anybody in our tribe is experiencing, they can grab that book. We'll list it there. Also grab that music. And let me make sure that we're being practical, because we're going to, we have the left brain people like, I'm right brain. Give me the music. Is it fair? Can I throw us under the bus to say you're more left brain, more logical steps and practical? So in the practical steps, there can be journaling. Yeah. There can also be setting new traditions and deciding which old traditions bring you peace and comfort and joy. And the other thing is support networks. Reach out. And here's the thing. If I'm experiencing grief, it may be difficult for me to reach out. So I want to encourage everybody. If you're not here, check on your people. Like if you're not hearing from someone, then check on them. Give them a call. Encourage them. Go sit on their bed. If they don't want to get up, just sit there. I'm good for that. I don't know how much you guys enjoyed that, but I'm just going to go sit on the bed and I'm going to talk. and I'm going to rub your back, or I'm not going to touch you
Yeah.
if you're not a
And
toucher.
presence is healing.
Presence is everything.
You don't have to say nothing. You don't got to do nothing. You don't got to. Sometimes just being with somebody can be super
that.
helpful. Well, we are super excited.
Super excited.
Just a final note.
Yeah.
No perfect way to grieve.
None.
No linear way to grieve.
Mm-mm.
Just feel what you need to feel. Process that. But get with some folks that can help you do it this holiday season. Be encouraged this holiday season.
Absolutely.
And begin to look forward to the new year.
And look for things to be
way.
happy about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go with that. Go with God into happiness.
That was so
and fa la 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 la.